voices from the South. "96 Venezuelan migrants living in Ecuador are returning home thanks to the Return to the Homeland program. This is the 5th flight chartered by the Bolivarian government from Ecuador. Venezuelans say they have suffered xenophobia and poor work conditions. They are excited to start over back at home.
The situation for Venezuelans here is very difficult. It is hard to get jobs, and when you get one, you are underpaid. There is too much exploitation and a lack of opportunities.
Let's work for a better future, for a better Venezuela. Our country needs us. We cannot build Venezuela from abroad. We have to build Venezuela in Venezuela, no matter what our ideology is.
Still in Venezuela, thousands of citizens have rallied in capital Caracas against foreign intervention attempts. Social and political movements have marched towards the presidential palace to show their support for the government. They say the Venezuelan people will resist despite the media and economic campaign against their country.
Here we're in a fight because we have a siege, an economic war promoted by the empire, and we are not going to subordinate ourselves to any empire. We are independent and we will remain independent.
Long live President Nicolás Maduro. Chávez was not wrong. It's a tremendous legacy. He's giving everything for the Chavistas and for those who are not Chavistas. For those who do not share this idea, long live President Nicolás Maduro.
Our correspondent in Caracas, Luis Tavera, tells us more.
Social and political movements and citizens have gathered in the capital of Caracas to march towards the Miraflores Palace to protest against interference attempts pushed by some international bodies and foreign governments. They say that they have promoted a media campaign and an economic war against the Venezuelan people. Demonstrators want to show their support to the Bolivarian Revolution. We will keep you updated on this march that is also supported by international solidarity movements.
Young people in the country are joining the Chamba Juvenil government program in an effort to strengthen the country's economy. So far, 600,000 youth are part of the initiative.
Young workers in Canaima Industries are to distribute free computers to public schools all around the country. Luis is one of 500 people involved in this effort, part of the Chamba Juvenil government program. He is convinced his country is full of opportunity.
I used to work as an operation before my promotion. I tell the young people living in the country that in other countries there are not many opportunities like here. Here we have professional growth.
Young people in Venezuela are ready to lead the country by helping boost an economy without heavy oil dependency.
I know we all have the potential to improve our country. The youth can support the economy. We have a lot to do here.
Youth make up 30% of Venezuela's population. Most of them are in the public education system. Those involved with the program help recruit their peers.
I love technology. Here I learned how to build a tablet and fix them as well.
I invite all the young people to be part of this family and to build our country strong. Despite all the obstacles, we remain here to grow.
More than 600,000 young Venezuelans are registered in the government program. 450,000 of them are already involved in the work and education sectors.
Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro has met with the regional director of United Nations Children's Fund, Maria Cristina Perceval. They renewed their commitment to secure the future of young people in Venezuela, Latin America, and Caribbean regions. The issue of widening access to quality education also took center stage during the talks. Meanwhile, presidential candidates have held their last televised debate as their campaigns come to a close. 7 contenders took part in the debate hosted by Brazil's media giant TV Globo. The Workers' Party candidate Fernando Haddad promised to stabilize Brazil's budget while protecting the rights of workers and the poor.
We will recover finances, but not in the manner that you want. 2. Cutting and eliminating rights. You are doing away with workers' rights. You have ending social rights. Supporting the government of Temer from the outset, 4 ministers were named. Why doesn't the Workers' Party have ministers in the Temer government? While PSDB has 4 ministers. We have problems in foreign affairs. They even praised Bolsonaro and now you are criticizing him. They cannot end workers' rights in order to improve public accounts. That is very serious. You cannot give privilege to the people above as you did, approving a readjustment in the judiciary, which are the officials who earn the most, and wanting to put burden on the workers and eliminate the rights of people with disabilities. The Workers' Party will never do something like that.
And the frontrunner, the far-right candidate Jair Bolsonaro, didn't turn up for the debate, once again citing ill health, but he was well enough to do a TV interview at the same time with the evangelical channel TV Record. He said he was recovering fantastically well from the stabbing that put him in hospital for much of the campaign. He called on supporters to help him win in the first round.
We are on the final push. If each of you who is convinced to vote for me manage to win me a vote and a half more, we will settle it in the first round. And at the end of the month, on the 28th, everyone can go to the beach and have a barbecue. We will not have to vote.
Our correspondent in Sao Paulo, Ignacio Lemus, was watching that final debate and brings us more.
There are just 2 days to go until the presidential election, and the final debate has taken place on Globo TV, the channel with the biggest audience in the country. 7 candidates from different parties took part, with the notable absence of Jair Bolsonaro, the candidate who is leading the polls. He didn't take part, supposedly on advice from his doctors. Bolsonaro had already said he was against taking part in these debates, even before he was stabbed, and had to be taken into hospital and operated on. In the debate, most of the attacks were directed at Fernando Haddad, the candidate of the Workers' Party, who is running second in all the recent polls. So the other candidate clearly wanted to win some votes away from him. Economic policies were an important part of this debate, including the tax reforms proposed by Haddad and the Workers' Party. There were calls to reverse the neoliberal policies of President Michel Temer. For example, the freezing of social spending and the labor reforms, which have been promoted both by this president and his economic minister, Enrique Meireles, who is his candidate in this election. So that's the situation just 2 days before Brazil decides on Sunday.
We thank Nacho Lemos for that report. Army General Hamilton Mourão, the running mate of Bolsonaro, has been campaigning in Sao Paulo.
If we thought that we will have progress allied to democracy and freedom, we were deceived. We live in a succession of scandals, all lead to the diversion of resources from the nation safe.
Earlier today, we spoke to independent journalist Mike Fox to explain Bolsonaro's popularity and the rise of the far right in Brazil.
Well, obviously, you have to look back at the last 5 years. 2013, there was this massive push, protests, that then led to Dilma's impeachment 3 years later. It's been a slow rise. The growth of the evangelical movement has been huge, now 25% of the population. And in general, it's a very conservative movement with so-called family values, anti-LGBT, anti-abortion. So it's the same cultural issues that you see in the United States. But more recently, Jair Bolsonaro has said he's going to rule with an iron fist. He wants to wipe the slate clean. He wants to flip things on its head. He's talked about draining the swamp, the Brazilian version of draining the swamp, very, very Trump-like language. And of course, he's talking about getting rid of the insecurity. That's been his big thing that he's been slamming home. He wants to arm people. He wants to put guns into good people's hands. And so this is kind of an allegory, a theme to kind of Donald Trump's the bad guys of Mexico. And so a lot of these things are very similar that we've been talking about. Also, a big thing that people are talking about is corruption. And this is something that people continue to bring up and again, because corruption is still endemic within Brazilian society. Despite the Petrobras and the car wash scandal, whatever else, you still have 2/3 of Congress, roughly, that voted for Dilma Rousseff's impeachment are themselves under investigation for corruption or crimes. And so he says he's going to come in, he's going to wipe corruption away, and people believe, they're really excited about his kind of no holds barred and his non-PC language. They really think he can come in and do this. And so you have these two diametrically opposed kind of ideologies for the country. One of them is extreme far right, Donald Trump style, but even more so because Jair Bolsonaro comes from the military. He was a captain in the military under the dictatorship. And so that's Jair Bolsonaro. The other one is kind of return to the left, the pink tide, poverty alleviation programs, and they're trying to decide on the future of Brazil. And in the middle, you have a lot of people that at this point are really just trying to figure out where they're going from here.
We'll be back very soon. Stay with us. Welcome back. Costa Rica's Legislative Assembly has approved the fiscal reform plan proposed by the government of Carlos Alvarado. The bill was passed with 35 votes in favor. Meanwhile, demonstrators gathered outside the assembly to reject the bill. The fiscal reform approval comes as ongoing strikes reach 26 days. Peru's President Martín Vizcarra says the Supreme Court's decision regarding the pardon of former President Alberto Fujimori should be respected. Although he said he understands the position of Fujimori's family, he thinks the rule of law should prevail.
I understand what happened, not just for Alberto Fujimori, but also for those close to him, his family, the people who support him. I get it. It's a real difficult situation. But the thing here is to respect the Supreme Court's decision.
Chile is celebrating the end of Augusto Pinochet's dictatorship 30 years ago. La Moneda Presidential Palace has been illuminated with the national flag to commemorate the anniversary. However, critics say that holdovers from dictatorship still remain. On October 5th, Chileans voted a referendum that allowed for a peaceful end to the regime. The TV campaign for the no option is still recognized as playing a key role in the result. It promoted democracy through music, dance, and humor. The referendum opened the door to presidential elections a year later.
We've never had the absolute certainty that the campaign was going to go on the air. There was always a fear, a concern that they would change the rules of the game, that the government would decide not to broadcast the campaign or any other event that would have prevented it from going out. The fact that it was on the television screen was already an impressive achievement.
Teachers in Chile are holding 48-hour strike to demand better working conditions. Thousands of teachers march in the capital, Santiago, to protest against the government's education policies. They also say the education system perpetuates inequality, a holdover from the dictatorship. Chileans have also protested outside the home of the Archbishop of Santiago, the most senior figure in Chile's Roman Catholic Church. The demonstration comes after he exercised his right to silence after being summoned on Wednesday for questioning by a state prosecutor. It is alleged he helped cover up child abuse.
We are vigilant and alert with regards to all abusers and those who cover them up. Wherever they go, we will search for them. We do not want them to walk freely and quietly around the cities of Chile. They are a danger to children and teenagers. Cardinal Ricardo Ezzati, may our nightmares follow you wherever you go, because they belong to you. Our murdered innocence will come back to haunt you. Never again alone. Never again in silence.
Health workers in Argentina have mobilized in a mass march against the neoliberal policies of the government of Mauricio Macri. The day of protest was held in response to the 2019 budget proposal and the bailout deal struck with the IMF. Among its objectives was the defense of the public health system and rejection of a proposal to eliminate the health ministry. Demonstrators are also calling attention to mass layoffs and the closure of social programs.
Health in Argentina is being degraded year after year. It's been 30 months with this government and every year the budget is being decreased. Public policies are practically abandoned and that affects the organization of the health system and the quality that can provide health care for our people.
The last economic changes in Cuba are one of the main reasons behind the constitutional reform. People are debating on the role of private property ahead of the referendum to approve the constitutional draft.
Tourists from all over the world arrive to Old Havana to enjoy authentic Cuban cuisine. Several of them visit La Moneda Cubana restaurant. The new constitution to be approved with a referendum recognizes private property of business like this.
I think it is important to recognize the private sector, but national investments should be recognized as well. No one knows better what the country needs than our own people. I also think the cost of raw materials should reduce and also the wholesale market should be open.
Private businesses like La Moneda Cubana restaurant receive teenagers and young adults to train them. Restaurants are educational spaces for students. Once they graduate, they become part of the workforce.
I think this has been achieved thanks to coordination between public and non-public sectors. For me, the government is fighting for a more equal and balanced society. We shouldn't be divided. We are all Cuban people and we must bet for a prosperous country. That's what the Constitution says.
For this researcher, one of the main achievements of the constitutional draft is not to stigmatize private property. However, he considers that the relationship between public and non-public sectors needs to develop. He adds that the well-being of Cubans is above everything else.
Cuban socialism nationalized the economy, but this has shown that this didn't work for small business. That's why I think we have to nurture this relationship.
Communities are discussing the constitutional draft ahead of the debate in Parliament. Then people will have to approve it in a referendum. The recognition of private property in the new Cuban constitution has brought a great debate. People are wondering how the government will control property accumulation. For many, the new constitution shouldn't forget socialism. To distribute wealth, first you need to generate it.
A potential tropical weather system is brewing in the Caribbean Sea and appears to be heading towards the Gulf of Mexico. The U.S. National Hurricane Center is tracking the disturbance, which is just off the east coast of Honduras and Nicaragua. Over the next 5 days, it could become a tropical depression. Hundreds of mourners gathered in Trinidad and Tobago to celebrate the life of steel pan icon and cultural ambassador Ken Fillmore. He died on Sunday, 1 week after a car accident. There was a packed congregation at the Southern Academy for Performing Arts. Professor, as he was affectionately called, was remembered for his style and flair, and for being one of the top pan soloists in the world. Soca star Destra Garcia delivered a passionate tribute in song. We'll be back very soon. Stay with us. Welcome back. Thousands of people have rallied in Togo's capital, Lome, to demand the release of opposition leaders. This is part of a campaign called A Candle for Freedom, aimed at urging the release of those arrested during the major opposition demonstrations last year. The main opposition leader, Jean-Pierre Fabre, has participated in the march.
It is essential for the situation to calm down that those arbitrarily detained, especially in connection with the demonstrations, be released very quickly.
Cameroon's main opposition party says a massive fraud is planned for polls. Members of the Camptos Movement for the Rebirth of Cameroon say that in 62% of the localities, the ruling party is adding names to the electoral roll. They also denounce that a purchasing of votes is taking place. They are calling on citizens to resist rigging.
The ruling party is currently going door to door to collect voting cards for money, which is not normal, which presumes a massive fraud is underway.
At least 3 minors have accused members of the UN peacekeeping mission of sexual abuse in the Central African Republic. The United Nations have confirmed that at least one person was involved. An investigation was carried after the accusations were filed on September 24th. The country of origin of the accused, Mauritania, has been asked to also open a case. And still in the Central African Republic, citizens are learning how the Special Criminal Court works through a play. Some 100 people attend the first performance, also aimed at raising awareness among Central Africans. Created in 2015, the court is responsible for prosecuting serious human rights violations committed in the country since 2003. The play will go on tour across the country. The 2018 Nobel Peace Prize has been awarded to Dr. Denis Mukwege and Nadia Murad for their efforts to end the use of sexual violence as a weapon of war and armed conflict. Out of 300 nominations, Iraqi activist Nadia Murad was chosen for her work with women forced into sexual slavery by the Islamic State group. The other winner, Congolese gynecological surgeon Dr. Denis Mukwege, has been recognized for treating thousands of women, many of them rape victims in the Democratic Republic of Congo.
This prize has a big meaning, that although it took time for the world to recognize us, the world has started listening to women. And not just listening, but getting to know the problems that you face. Understanding our problems is not enough. They must realize that when you commit a crime against anyone, it's not right.
And Congolese citizens are sharing their pride for the awarding of Dr. Denis Mukwege. They say the so-called Dr. Miracle is a role model to face and overcome the atrocities of the war. A new species of dinosaur has been discovered in South Africa. The giant dinosaur ruled 200 million years ago in the area. According to the team of paleontologists, the dinosaur was 12 tons and 4 meters at the withers, twice the size of an elephant. These herbivores were the largest animals living on the earth at the time.
200 million years ago in the earliest Jurassic.
And with the story, we've come to the end of this news brief. For everything on Brazil's election this Sunday, you can check out our special website. All you have to do is visit our website at telesurtv.net/English, then go to In Depth and click on the option Brazil Elections, everything you need to know. And also join us on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. For Telesur English, I am Stefania Bravo. Thank you for watching.
We are always there tracking the news. We seek equality